The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with light. Beings from 300 worlds sat in rising tiers, their voices a mix of clicks, hums, and words. At the center of it all, High Counselor Ta stood tall, his blue skin catching the light as he raised his six-fingered hands for quiet. "Today marks a historic moment," Ta said. His voice was soft, but reached every corner of the hall. "We welcome the representatives of Earth, the newest spacefaring world, to join our galactic family." The massive doors at the far end of the hall slid open. 5 humans walked in. They looked small and plain next to the colorful aliens around them. The lead human, a man named Jeho, walked with his back straight and his eyes forward. His black suit was simple, with only a small earth pin on his chest. "That's their ambassador," whispered a plant-like being to its neighbor. "Where are his ceremonial robes? His status markers?" Captain Su-min walked slightly behind Jeho. Her military uniform was neat, and her eyes missed nothing. She counted 14 different species that could pose a physical threat to humans, but none seemed hostile. Yet. "Welcome, humans of Earth," said Ta with a practiced smile. "For 10,000 years, the Galactic Council has maintained peace among the stars. Through proper negotiation and respect for our ways, all find prosperity." Jeho stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you for your welcome, High Counselor. Earth is pleased to join the galactic community." Tay's smile grew wider. "Excellent. Now, if you and your team will perform the ritual of new arrival, we can begin the integration process." Jeho looked confused. "What does this ritual involve?" An aide whispered in Ta's ear. The High Counselor nodded. "Of course, you would know. The ritual is simple. Your team will kneel, touch your foreheads to the floor, and recite the Pledge of Submission to Council authority. This shows your acceptance of the natural order." The humans looked at each other. Yunji, the communications specialist, frowned. Scientist Du Hyun raised an eyebrow. Captain Su-min's hand moved slightly closer to her side, though she carried no visible weapon. Jeho spoke clearly. "With respect, High Counselor, humans don't kneel to show respect. We consider all beings equal in discussions. We're happy to observe a mutual greeting, but we won't pledge submission." A shock ran through the hall. Voices rose in confusion and anger. From her seat among the diplomatic corps, Hannah watched with interest. Unlike most council members, she had studied human culture extensively. She knew this response was typical of humans, not an insult. She stood and approached Ta. "High Counselor," she said quietly, "humans have a different understanding of diplomacy. They value direct speech and equal standing. Their refusal isn't meant as disrespect." Tay's smile had vanished. All species adapt to council ways, not the other way around. On the other side of the hall, Commander Bake of the Drask watched with narrow eyes. The Drask were a warrior race who had joined the council 500 years ago. They had performed the ritual without complaint. "See how they defy tradition on their first day," Bake said to his aides. "Humans are dangerous, unpredictable." Jeho remained calm. "We come as friends and equal partners. Earth has achieved faster than light travel in just 200 years since our industrial age. We hope to share knowledge and build relationships based on mutual respect." This statement caused more murmurs. Most species took thousands of years to develop FTL technology. High Counselor Tai raised his hand again for silence. His face showed nothing, but his inner eyelids blinked rapidly, a sign of stress in his species. "This is unusual," he said finally. "We will adjourn for today and resume tomorrow. Ambassador Jeho, your team will be shown to your quarters." As the humans left, escorted by council guards, Hannah caught Jeho's eye and gave a small nod. There was at least one friend in this room of strangers. But in the shadows of the hall, many eyes watched the humans with fear. Change had come to the Galactic Council, and not everyone welcomed it. The human quarters were large but plain. Jeho sat with his team around a table made of strange blue metal. "Well, that could have gone better," said Du Hyun. tapping his fingers on the table. The scientist's eyes were bright with interest despite the tense situation. Captain Su-min stood by the window, looking at the massive city that surrounded the council building. Flying vehicles moved in perfect lines between towers that reached into the clouds. "They expected us to bow down on our first meeting," she said. "That tells us everything we need to know." Jai-ho nodded slowly. "They see themselves as above us. This isn't the equal partnership we hoped for." A soft chime sounded at the door. Yunji opened it to find Hana standing there. The council diplomat bowed slightly. "May I enter?" she asked. Jai-ho waved her in. "Please, we could use a friendly face." Hana sat at the table. Unlike the High Counselor, her skin was pale green with small dots of silver. Her eyes were large and completely black. "You've caused quite a stir," she said. "No new species has ever refused the ritual of new arrival." "We didn't come all this way to kneel," said Su-min sharply. "I understand," Hana replied. "But you must understand the council's position too. For 10,000 years, they have kept peace using strict rules and traditions. Your refusal scares them." Do-hyun leaned forward. "Tell me, Hana, how many species joined the council before developing their own FTL travel?" Hana blinked slowly. "Almost all of them. Most were found by council explorers when they had just mastered simple spaceflight. They were guided into the galactic community slowly. But humans made the jump on our own," said Jai-ho. "Does that make us different in their eyes?" "It makes you unpredictable," said Hana. "And the council fears what it cannot predict." In the Grand Chamber, an emergency meeting was underway. High Counselor Ta sat at the head of a round table with 12 senior council members. "This is unacceptable," said Elder Junwoo, the oldest member of the council. His face was a mass of wrinkles, and his voice shook with anger. "They must follow the ritual or be expelled." Tai raised a hand for calm. "The humans are young and don't understand our ways yet. They need time." "Time is what we cannot give them," said Commander Bake. The Drask's red scales shimmered under the lights. "My intelligence officers have studied Earth's history. Humans are violent and divided. They fought terrible wars among themselves less than a century ago." "All young species have violent pasts," said a small furry being named Min. Bake slammed a clawed hand on the table. "But most species are guided by the council for centuries before they reach the stars. Humans did it alone, and too quickly. Who knows what else they are capable of?" The council members looked at each other nervously. Ta sighed deeply. "We will give them one more chance," he said. "Tomorrow, they will be invited to observe the full council session. They will see our power and unity. Then they will understand the proper way." Back in the human quarters, a small device on the wall blinked red, recording every word. Yunji noticed it first. "We're being watched," she whispered to Jai-ho. He nodded but kept talking normally to Hana. "Tell us more about how the council makes decisions." As Hana explained the complex voting system, Su-min wrote on a small pad, "Room PUGGED, B Care Fuel." Jai-ho read the note and passed it to the others. He smiled at Hana. "Thank you for this information. It helps us understand better." After Hana left, Jai-ho gathered his team close and whispered, "Tomorrow is important. They want to show their power. We need to show we're not afraid, but we also need to be respectful. And if they demand we kneel again," asked Do-hyun. Jai-ho's face was serious. "Then we stand tall. Earth stands as an equal or not at all." Outside their window, 3 suns began to set, painting the alien sky in colors no human had seen before. Tomorrow would bring new challenges in a galaxy that suddenly seemed much more dangerous than they had imagined. The full council session was a sight to behold. All 300 species had representatives present. The chamber was now filled to capacity, with beings of every shape, size, and color. Jai-ho and his team sat in a special section for visitors. Captain Su-min noticed how many eyes were on them. Some looked curious, others fearful, and a few openly hostile. "They're making a show of this," she whispered to Jaiho. He nodded slightly. Stay calm. We represent all of Earth today. High Counselor Ta stood at the center of the chamber. His voice rang out clearly. Today we welcome observers from Earth. They have joined the stars recently, and much about our ways is new to them. There was polite applause. Ta continued with a long speech about the Council's history of peace and prosperity. He described how the Council had guided younger species and protected them from the dangers of space. After an hour, Elder Junwoo rose from his seat. The old alien moved slowly to the center of the room. His voice was surprisingly strong for his age. Humans of Earth, he said directly to Jaiho. We have reviewed your world's technology, culture, and history. We are prepared to offer you membership in the Galactic Council. Jaiho stood and bowed respectfully. Earth thanks you for this honor. Junwoo held up a large tablet. This is the standard treaty of admission. All members have signed something similar. It outlines your rights and responsibilities. Do-hyun accepted the tablet and began to read quickly. His eyes widened. Sir, he whispered to Jaiho, this limits Earth's military development. It would force us to rely on Council protection, and it gives them control over our trade and technology. Jaiho read the key points himself. The treaty would make Earth a junior member with little power. Humans would need permission to expand to new star systems. Earth's faster-than-light technology would have to be shared with the Council. The chamber was silent as Jaiho considered the document. Finally, he looked up at Elder Junwoo. With respect, Elder, these terms are not acceptable to Earth. We seek equal partnership, not a position of submission. Gasps and shouts filled the chamber. No species had ever rejected the standard treaty. High Counselor Tae's face darkened. This is not a negotiation, Ambassador Jaiho. These are the standard terms for all new species. Then they must be changed. Jaiho said simply. Earth will not sign away its independence. Commander Baek pushed forward from his section. The Drask warrior's scales were bright red with anger. This proves what I warned about, he shouted. Humans are too wild to join our peaceful community. They refuse to follow our most basic rules. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some council members shouted for humans to be expelled. Others called for calm and discussion. Tai raised his hands for quiet. When the noise died down, he spoke in a cold voice. Ambassador Jaiho, the council has maintained peace for 10,000 years through these very rules you reject. Your refusal endangers that peace. Jaiho stood tall. Earth wants peace too. But peace built on equality, not control. Commander Baek stepped to the center of the room. His voice was like gravel. Enough talk. Here is the truth, humans. You will accept the treaty as written, or Earth will be isolated. No trade, no diplomacy, no protection. Make your choice. Captain Su-min tensed, ready for trouble. Yun-jai looked worried. Do-hyun continued to study the treaty, looking for any compromise. Jaiho's voice was quiet but firm. Earth does not respond well to threats, Commander. We came seeking friends, not masters. Baek gave a harsh laugh. You have 3 days to reconsider. After that, you will be escorted from council space. As the humans were led from the chamber, Hana caught Jaiho's eye from her seat. She looked worried. Outside, Su-min spoke quietly. I should contact Earth Command. They need to know the situation has changed. Jaiho nodded. Tell them to prepare defensive systems, just in case, but make it clear we're still pursuing peace. 3 days isn't much time, said Do-hyun. No, said Jaiho, looking back at the council building. But it's all we have to change 10,000 years of thinking. The council chamber was in chaos after the humans left. Representatives shouted over each other. Some pounded their desks. Others huddled in small groups, whispering urgently. High Counselor Todd called for order, but his voice was lost in the noise. Finally, Elder Junwoo stood and raised his ancient staff. A loud boom echoed through the chamber, and silence fell. We will discuss this matter calmly, Junwoo said. like the civilized beings we claim to be. The council members returned to their seats. Ta nodded gratefully to Junwoo. The human response was unexpected, Ta admitted. In 10,000 years, no species has refused our standard terms. Because no species has been allowed to develop so far without our guidance, said Commander Bake. We usually find them when they've barely reached their own moons. Humans developed too quickly, without our control. Min, the small furry counselor, spoke up. Perhaps we should consider their request for more equal terms. Their technology is impressive. Absolutely not, interrupted another counselor with 4 arms and green skin. If we give special treatment to humans, other species will demand the same. The entire system will collapse. The debate raged on. In a quiet corner, Hannah watched with growing concern. She had served on the council for 20 years, but had never seen such fear. Meanwhile, in the archives section deep below the council building, Hannah's assistant Da worked alone. The young archivist moved through shelves of ancient records, searching for something special. Da had worked for Hannah for 5 years. When she had asked him to look for any records of species that had challenged the council in the past, he was surprised. Such a search would normally be forbidden. Here it is, he whispered, pulling out a dusty data crystal. It was marked with a red symbol meaning restricted. Day inserted the crystal into his reader. The screen lit up with information about a species called the Varn. They had developed faster than light travel independently, like humans. When they met the council 3,000 years ago, they too had asked for equal treatment. Day read further and gasped. The Varn had been completely cut off from the galaxy. Later records showed their civilization had collapsed after a mysterious plague. The council had written them off as unfortunate but necessary losses. There were other cases too. Species that questioned council authority had been dealt with harshly. Some were isolated until they fell apart. Others faced accidental disasters. None existed today. Day copied the files quickly. Hannah needed to see this. In their quarters, the human team was busy. Su-min had sent an encrypted message to Earth. Du-hyun examined council technology in their rooms, taking careful notes. Their tech is advanced in some ways, but strangely limited in others, he told Jae-ho. It's like they purposely avoided certain developments. Yeonji was reviewing language files from dozens of species. I'm finding patterns in how the council communicates. They never use direct confrontation. Everything is wrapped in ritual and tradition. A soft knock at the door interrupted them. Ji-ho opened it to find Hannah standing there with a young male of her species. We need to talk, she said urgently. This is Da, my assistant. Once inside, Dai showed them what he had found in the archives. The council has faced challenges before, Hannah explained. They didn't handle them well. Jae-ho studied the files with growing concern. They destroyed these civilizations rather than change their system. Not directly, said Hannah. But yes, the council values stability above all else. Change frightens them. Why are you showing us this? Asked Su-min, her voice suspicious. Why help us? Hannah looked at Da, then back to the humans. Because I believe the council needs to change. Many younger members feel the same. The old ways have kept peace, but at what cost? Progress is slowed. New ideas are feared. You're risking a lot, said Jae-ho. So are you, Hannah replied. Commander Buddick has already requested permission to send ships to Earth, not just as a show of force, as a real threat. Su-min's face hardened. Let them try. No, said Jae-ho quickly. We want peace. But we need allies. He looked at Hannah. Can you gather those who think like you? We have less than 3 days to find another way. Hannah nodded. It won't be easy, but perhaps it's time for the council to face its fear of change. As Hannah and Dai slipped out, Jae-ho turned to his team. We're not just fighting for Earth now. We're fighting for every species that's been kept down by this system. Outside the window, the 3 suns began to rise. A new day in a galaxy on the edge of transformation. Commander Bake stood proudly on the bridge of his flagship, the Drask warship Swift Justice. Around him, 20 smaller ships formed a perfect attack formation. Their mission had been approved in a closed council session, with only Elder Junwu and a few others voting against it. "This will teach the humans their place," Bak said to his second-in-command. "A small show of force, and they will beg to sign our treaty." The fleet moved through hyperspace toward Earth. Buck had chosen his best ships and crews. They would not attack unless ordered, but their presence alone would make Earth understand the power of the Council. Back on the Council world, Jiho paced in the human quarters. Something felt wrong. His meeting with a group of younger council members had gone well, but High Councilor Tai and the senior leadership had been absent. The door slid open and Hannah rushed in. Her face was pale green with worry. "They've sent ships to Earth," she said without greeting. "Buck leads them." Jiho froze. "When?" "6 hours ago. They will reach Earth soon." Su-min was already moving, activating her secure communication device. "Earth needs to be warned." Do-hyun looked up from his work. "Will they attack?" "Bak says no," said Hana. "Just a demonstration of power. But he has 20 ships, all armed." Jiho's face hardened. "Su-min, tell Earth not to fire first. But they should be ready." The Drask fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Earth's moon. Commander Bake smiled at the blue planet ahead. It looked so small, so vulnerable. "Send the message," he ordered. "Tell Earth we come by order of the Galactic Council. They have 24 hours to accept our terms or face isolation." His communications officer worked at her console. Suddenly, she looked up in confusion. "Commander, I'm detecting strange energy readings from the planet." Bake frowned. "What kind of readings?" Before she could answer, a soft blue light surrounded Earth. It grew brighter, expanding outward like a bubble. "Shields," Bak shouted. "Raise shields." The bubble of blue energy stopped just short of the moon. It completely encircled Earth. "What is it?" asked Bak's second-in-command. "Some kind of shield," said the science officer. "But like nothing in our records. It's not blocking our scans." But he looked up in surprise. "We can't penetrate it with weapons. Our simulations show even our strongest weapons would be stopped." Bake stared at the screen. This was impossible. No new species should have such technology. His communications officer spoke again. "Commander, we're receiving a message from Earth." "On screen," Beck ordered. Captain Su-min's face appeared. She was calm and professional. "Drask Fleet, this is Earth Defense. We have activated our protective shield as a precaution. We have not aimed weapons at your ships. We came to the Galactic Council in peace and wish to remain peaceful, but we will not be threatened or intimidated." Beck's scales darkened with anger. "You dare to challenge the Council's authority?" Su-min's expression didn't change. "We don't see a request for equal partnership as a challenge. We see it as the foundation of true peace." "Your shield cannot last forever," Beck growled. "It can last long enough," Su-min replied simply. "Commander Bake, we invite you to return to the Council. Tell them Earth remains open to talks between equals. The choice for peace or conflict is yours." The transmission ended. Buck slammed his fist on his chair. "Scan that shield. Find its weakness." For 3 hours, the Drask fleet tried everything to analyze Earth's defense. Nothing worked. The shield remained perfectly stable. Finally, Bak's second-in-command spoke quietly. "Commander, we should report back to the Council." "This changes things." Bake knew he was right. The humans had been hiding their true capabilities. This would shock the Council to its core. "Set course back to Council space," he ordered. His voice was bitter. "The Council needs to know what we're really dealing with." As the Drask fleet turned and disappeared into hyperspace, Earth's shield continued to glow softly. In the Council building far away, Jiho watched Su-min's transmission with pride. Earth had stood strong without firing a single shot. The game had changed. News of Earth's shield spread through the Council like wildfire. Emergency meetings were called. Security levels were raised. Species that had never spoken to each other now huddled in corners, discussing what this meant for the galaxy. In the main chamber, Commander Bake showed recordings of Earth's defense system. "As you can see," he said, his voice tight with anger, "the humans have been hiding their true capabilities. This shield technology is beyond anything in our records." High Counselor Tay's face was grim. "This changes everything. A species with such advanced technology cannot be allowed to operate freely. They are a threat to galactic stability." Elder Junwu shook his head slowly. "Or perhaps they are exactly what our stagnant society needs. New ideas, new approaches, dangerous ideas," shouted a reptilian counselor. "If other species learn from them, our entire system could collapse." The council chamber quickly divided. On one side stood Ta, Bake, and the traditionalists who feared the humans. On the other side, Elder Junwu led a smaller group who saw potential in Earth's different approach. Between them, many species waited, uncertain which side to join. In a small meeting room far from the chamber, Jiho sat with Hannah and representatives from 15 different species. These were the younger, more progressive members of the council. "The old guard is afraid," said a tall, thin alien with cloudy skin. "They've controlled everything for so long. Your refusal to follow their rules terrifies them." Jiho nodded. "Earth doesn't want to destroy the council. We just want a voice equal to others." "Is it true about your shield technology?" asked another alien with 4 eyes. "Could it really stop Bak's entire fleet?" "Yes," Jiho said simply. "Earth has developed many technologies independently. Some are beyond what the Council currently uses." Murmurs ran through the room. Hannah spoke up. "This is why many of us support you. The Council has slowed progress for centuries, claiming it was for safety. But really, it was about control." A small bird-like being chirped from across the table. "My world has minerals that could revolutionize medicine. But the Council limits how we can use them. They say it's to prevent harmful side effects, but we've proven it's safe." Other species shared similar stories. The Council had kept them dependent, controlled their development, all while claiming it was for the greater good. "We can change this," said Jiho. "Not by destroying the Council, but by reforming it. A true partnership of equals, where knowledge is shared, not controlled." Meanwhile, in his private chamber, High Counselor Ta received a disturbing report. Earth had begun direct communications with several worlds outside Council channels. Trade agreements were being discussed. Technology exchanges were happening. Tay's aide looked worried. "Sir, these actions violate Council law. Unauthorized contact between worlds is forbidden." "The humans move quickly," Ta said. "Too quickly. They're undermining our authority before we can respond." He stood and moved to the window. The capital city spread out below him, peaceful and orderly, as it had been for thousands of years. "Prepare a final ultimatum," he ordered. "The humans must cease all independent contact with Council worlds, surrender their shield technology for study, and accept our terms. Otherwise, they will be declared enemies of the Council." "And if they refuse?" asked the aide. Tay's face was cold. "Then we must do what we've always done with species that threaten our system. We will isolate them completely, cut off all travel to Earth, forbid all communication. Any world that deals with them will face the same punishment." "Some worlds may resist," the aide said carefully. "Elder Junwu has gathered significant support for the humans." "Then the Council will split," said Ta. "So be it. Better a smaller, unified council than one corrupted by human ideas of equality." As night fell on the Council world, the galaxy stood at a crossroads. The peaceful order of 10,000 years was cracking, and Earth, the newest species among the stars, was at the center of it all. Du-hyun worked through the night. The human scientist had gained access to more Council records with Day's help. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. but what he found was worth it. When Jai-Ho entered the room, Do-hyun looked up with excitement. "I found it," he said. "The real reason they fear us." Eun-ji and Soo-min gathered around as Do-hyun showed them his screen. "The council isn't just a political body," Do-hyun explained. "It's a system of control. For 50,000 years, the founding species have kept the galaxy in check." He displayed charts showing how resources flowed from newer council members to the oldest ones, how technology was deliberately held back from developing worlds. "They find new species early," said Do-hyun. "They guide them into the council before they develop too far on their own. Then they control what technology they can use, what resources they can keep. A galaxy-wide system of dependence," Soo-min said quietly. "Jai-Ho studied the data carefully, and we developed too quickly for them to control us." "Exactly," said Do-hyun. "We're the first species in thousands of years to develop FTL travel without their guidance. We don't fit their system." Eun-ji, who had been analyzing council communications, added, "And we're spreading ideas. Many worlds are starting to question the council after seeing us stand up to them." Jai-Ho made a decision. "We need to bring this to light, not just to our allies, but to the full council." The emergency full council session was tense. High Councilor Ta stood at the center, ready to deliver his ultimatum to Earth. All 300 species were present, with extra security posted throughout the chamber. Before the High Councilor speaks, Elder Junwoo called out, "Ambassador Jai-Ho has requested the right to address the council." Ta frowned. "This is highly irregular. We have important matters to discuss, including the truth about the council's purpose," Jai-Ho asked as he walked to the center of the room. His voice was calm but carried to every corner. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Tae's eyes narrowed. "You have 5 minutes, Ambassador." Jai-Ho nodded and activated the main display system. The screens around the chamber filled with the data Do-hyun had discovered. "Respected council members," Jai-Ho began, "for 50,000 years, you have been told the council exists to maintain peace. But that is only part of the truth." He showed the resource flow charts, the technology restrictions, the careful control of development across hundreds of worlds. The founding species created a system where they would always remain on top, where newer members would always depend on them, where true advancement was carefully controlled. Shock spread through the chamber. Many species had never seen this information before. Some of the older members looked away, unable to deny the truth. High Councilor Ta stepped forward. "Enough. These are internal council matters. The system exists to prevent war and chaos." Jai-Ho turned to face him directly. "Is that why Earth was seen as such a threat? Because we developed independently? Because we might show others they don't need the council's control?" The chamber erupted in shouted questions. Species that had been council members for thousands of years demanded answers. Newer members looked betrayed. Tai raised his hands for silence. When the noise finally died down, he spoke with surprising honesty. "Yes," he said simply. "The system was designed to control advancement, to keep any one species from becoming too powerful, to maintain balance." He looked around the chamber. Before the council, this galaxy was torn apart by wars. Advanced weapons destroyed entire worlds. Our founders created a system where such power would never again threaten us all. Jai-Ho nodded. "A noble goal, but achieved through deception and control." "Through necessary management," Tak corrected. "Your way, Ambassador, leads to chaos, to each species pursuing power without limits. Eventually, to war." The council chamber was silent now. The truth was finally in the open after 50,000 years. Jai-Ho looked around at all the different beings. "There is another way," he said, "one that neither relies on control nor leads to chaos." Elder Junwoo stepped forward to stand beside him. "I believe it is time we heard it." The council chamber was silent. All eyes were on Jai-Ho. Even those who had opposed him wanted to hear what he would say next. "The council fears chaos," Jai-Ho began. And that fear is reasonable. No one wants war. No one wants destruction. He paused, looking at the many different faces around him. But control is not the only way to prevent chaos. HYF stepped forward, his voice stronger now. Earth proposes a new type of galactic alliance, one built on 3 simple ideas. He held up one finger. First, open knowledge sharing. All species deserve access to advances that can improve their lives. Medicine that can save lives should not be held back. Clean energy should not be restricted. He raised a second finger. Second, mutual defense. Each world contributes what it can to protect all members. No one stands alone, but no one controls others. HYF raised a third finger. Third, self-determination. Each species chooses its own path of development. We offer guidance when asked, but we do not force our ways on others. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some nodded in agreement. Others looked uncertain. High Counselor Ta shook his head. Pretty words, Ambassador. But without control, species will develop dangerous technologies. They will compete for resources. Eventually, they will fight. Some might, HYF admitted. But think of what you lose through your system of control. How many cures for diseases have been delayed? How many new ideas have been suppressed? The price of your perfect order is the freedom of hundreds of worlds. Elder Junwu spoke up. I have served the Council for 200 years. I believed in our system. But I have seen how it has slowed progress, how it has created resentment. Perhaps it is time for a new approach. Ta looked around the chamber. He could see he was losing support. It's easy for humans to talk about freedom, he said. You haven't seen the horrors of galactic war. You haven't watched entire systems burn. No, said HYF. But we've had our own wars. We've seen our own horrors. And we learned that true peace comes not from control, but from cooperation. Captain Su Min stepped forward. Earth has already begun forming trade agreements with 15 systems, not to build weapons, but to share medical technology, clean energy, and better food production. This news caused more commotion. Unauthorized trade between systems was strictly forbidden by council law. You admit to breaking our most basic rules? Tai asked, his voice rising. We are showing there is another way, Su Min replied calmly. Commander Bake pushed forward, his scales dark with anger. This is exactly what I warned about. The humans are undermining our entire system. Your system, corrected a voice from across the chamber. It was Min, the small furry counselor. Not all of us agreed to these controls. Many of us were never told the full truth. Other voices joined in. More and more species spoke up, questioning the old ways, demanding change. High Counselor Tai raised his hands. Enough. I call for a vote. All those who support the traditional council system and the containment of Earth, stand to my right. All those who support this new alliance, stand to the left. The chamber erupted in movement. Species began to choose sides. Many of the oldest council members moved to stand with Ta. But to everyone's surprise, many others, including some ancient species, moved to the left. Elder Junwu stood beside HYF, Hana, and many younger council members joined them. Even Commander Bake hesitated, looking thoughtful. When the movement stopped, the chamber was nearly equally divided. 10,000 years of tradition stood on one side. The promise of a new beginning stood on the other. HYF looked across at High Counselor Ta. This doesn't have to be a complete break. Change can come gradually, but it must come. For the first time, uncertainty showed in Ta's eyes. The council would never be the same again. 6 months had passed since the Great Divide in the council chamber. The galaxy had changed more in that short time than in the previous 1,000 years. The old council building now housed a new organization, the Galactic Alliance. Elder Junwu sat in the main chair today, though it would pass to another representative next month. The Alliance believed in shared leadership. HYF stood before the gathered representatives. There were now over 200 species in the Alliance, with more joining each month. The medical exchange program has now reached 50 systems, HYF reported. Childhood disease rates have dropped by 30% on participating worlds. Applause filled the chamber. This was what the Alliance was built for, real progress that helped people. And what of the holdouts? Asked a representative from a water world. Has High Counselor Ta shown any interest in joining us? HYF shook his head. Not yet. Ta and about 90 species have formed what they call the Preservation Council. They maintain the old ways among themselves. Elder Junwu nodded slowly. They must find their own path. Our door remains open to them. As the meeting continued, Hannah watched from her new position as Alliance Chief Diplomat. So much had changed. Worlds that had been kept dependent were now developing rapidly with shared knowledge. Trade flowed freely between systems. New ideas were celebrated rather than feared. There had been problems, of course. Some worlds had developed too quickly, facing social upheaval. Others had old conflicts that resurfaced with new freedom. But the Alliance worked together to help resolve these issues, not through control, but through support. After the meeting, Hannah found HYF looking out at the city from a high balcony. "Thinking about Earth?" she asked. HYF smiled. "Yes. I'm heading home next week after a year here. I wonder if it will feel different." "You've changed the galaxy," Hannah said. "That changes a person." "Not just me," HYF replied. "It took many voices to create change." Across the plaza, they saw Commander Bake approaching with his security team. The Drask commander had surprised everyone by joining the Alliance after the split. "Ambassador HYF," Bake called as he approached. "The defense grid installation is complete on the outer systems. All 20 border worlds now have Earth-style shield technology." HYF nodded. "Thank you, Commander." It had been Captain Su-min who had convinced Bake to join the Alliance. The two military leaders had spent a month developing a mutual defense protocol that protected Alliance worlds while preventing any single species from becoming too powerful. The Drask never feared humans, Bake had explained to HYF. "We feared weakness. Your Captain Su-min showed us that true strength comes from standing together, not from control." Later that day, a private message arrived for HYF. It was from High Counselor Ta. "Some of our younger worlds are asking about medical technology." The message read, "Perhaps we could discuss a limited exchange program. This is not surrender, merely pragmatism." HYF smiled as he showed the message to his team. Do Hyun and Yeonji, who had both stayed on as advisors to the Alliance, nodded in approval. "It's a start," said Yeonji. A new saying had spread through the galaxy in recent months. Negotiate like a human. It meant to be direct, fair, and unwilling to compromise on basic principles. It meant finding solutions that worked for everyone, not just the powerful. As the three suns set on the Alliance capital, HYF reflected on how far they had come. Humans had refused to negotiate on the Council's terms. They had stood firm on their principles. And in doing so, they had changed the course of galactic history. The old Council had feared that humans would bring chaos. Instead, they had brought something the galaxy needed even more: hope. And as ships from hundreds of worlds flew peacefully through the evening sky, that hope shined brighter than all three suns combined.